Celtic Fiddle Guru here. Well, again, this is our second house concert broadcast live from Orlando. So this is Eastern US time, just after 8 p.m, 5 p.m. Pacific time, plus 14 hours in Australia, so that makes it about 10 a.m. on Friday morning. And if you're in Europe, you're going to be up really late. So hello to everyone who's staying up late in Europe, who's getting up and just enjoying their morning coffee break in Australia, who's finishing the workday on the west coast, and who's settling into a nice evening on the east coast of the US. Now, today's topic, or today's theme, is put your feet up and relax, and just enjoy the next hour with myself. And thank you, Constant from Constant Productions, for producing tonight's house concert. So very appreciative of there. And when I think about putting your feet up and just taking 5, just relaxing, you might be doing it on the beach, just having a look at the sea. So imagine doing that somewhere in the world, or even just in your back garden. You don't have to have decent weather. You can just imagine you've got decent weather. And a special shout out to Dolly and Robert. Robert, all the best, and best wishes. And this is, the shout out is just put your feet up and relax. So when I think about putting my feet up and relaxing, I think about the west coast of Scotland. I also think about Florida, by the way. And I think about the sea. So one of my favourite haunts is actually just being down on the beach on the west coast. And there, you've actually got a really, you can have the blue skies, it can be rain, and you've got a rich blueness of the sea. So when I think about the sea, this is a tune that comes to mind. Now that tune was called Over the Sea to Sky, and that tune hails back to maybe the 1700s, when in Scotland, when you had the Jacobite rebellion and you had Bonnie Prince Charlie, and a bit of history there. So and all this going on between England and Scotland, and also the Jacobite rebellion as well, and quite an emotional period of Scottish history, I would probably say. And my family actually is from the island of Skye. So we go back, the MacLeod family goes back to 1208, when Olaf the Black, the Viking king of the Western Isles, had 2 kids, 2 sons. One got the island of Lewis, and one actually got the island of Skye. And there are actually 25 tartans in the MacLeod family. I'm wearing the hunting MacLeod tonight. I'm wearing my kilt tonight, and the colours, you got green, mostly green. You've got red, you've got blue, and you've got sort of like yellow stripes as well. And some of the tunes that I've actually sort of, I suppose, learned over the years are about people with their feet up in a boat, and they're actually rowing away from something, an island. Like, I think the Sky Boat song, and the idea about Bonnie Prince Charlie being rowed away from the island of Skye by Flora MacDonald, who actually came to the US after she had spent a bit of time in prison. And there's another tune, this time it's by the Reverend William MacLeod, and he wrote this tune called Sitting in the Stern of a Boat. And this time the Reverend MacLeod had his feet up in the rowing boat. He was actually being rowed away from the island of Skye as well. Would you believe that? So here's that tune. Putting your feet up after a long day's work is always a really, really relaxing thing. And one of the ways that music has sort of been like a social glue or a social adhesive in Scotland has been when everyone had maybe been working a long day in the croft or whatever they were doing. Then they might gather in somebody's house, a community might gather in somebody's house in a village hall, and they would have a ceilidh. And there would be song, there would be conversation, catching up on what's going on in the local community. There would be singing, there might be dancing, there might be people playing instruments as well. And just people relaxing. So one of the things that Scots love to do is to actually have a ceilidh, and some of my favourite memories of being in Edinburgh have actually been at the summer ceilidhs at a place called the Caledonian Brewery. I don't know if it still does the Saturday nights, but it was absolutely awesome fun, you know, to either play or just like get up with everyone and join in. You had people from different countries. You had Scots, you had Germans, you had Americans, You had there was a strong international contingent as well. People who were visiting Edinburgh, and they just wanted to have fun and put their feet up after a day of touring. So you're probably asking, so Colin, what sort of tunes might be played at maybe a ceilidh, or people getting together? Well, I'm going to play a set of 3 tunes that are called, and it's for a dance called the Dashing White Sergeant. So this is for the Scottish people, and you know, when I've been travelling in Ireland and I've been going into an Irish session bar, they always want to play Scottish music, and vice versa. When I've been playing in the music sessions in Edinburgh, they always want to play Irish music. It's a good way to learn the tunes. So here's 3 tunes for a ceilidh dance called the Dashing White Sergeant. And so these were 3 tunes. The first one was the Dashing White Sergeant. The second one was called Cornrigs, and that's a tune that's associated with a song by Robert Burns, Scotland's national poet. And the last tune is called Mrs. MacLeod, and that's Mrs. MacLeod of Rassay. And you're probably thinking, well, when would people put their feet up listening to that? Well, actually, so people would go up, have a dance, and then they'd sit down and put their feet up because they'd just done a bit of exercise. And speaking of exercise, I really had to put my feet up on Sunday. I was playing with the Bracing Heads. That's David Gillespie and Shane Farrell, I think, and also Jim on Baran. This was at Fiddler's Green in Winter Park, and it was such a high energy night that I had absolutely no hair left on the bow afterwards. I had to go down. Well, I've gone down to Melbourne, and you might have seen the Facebook Live from Atlantic Strings of just actually, putting the bow in for rehair. But I just had to put my feet up on Sunday after that spirited occasion on the Saturday night, and it was really good to see just the place, the establishment, Fiddler's Green, was totally full, and it reminded me probably of a pub in Ireland, I think. And the bride and groom came in, and they had probably 40 of their party coming in as well. And Dave and Shane did a great job, just making people feel welcome. And everyone enjoyed themselves. Everyone put their feet up after like a long work week, Monday to Friday, and after whatever they were doing on the Saturday. And sometimes putting your feet up might be after you've solved a puzzle, like a jigsaw puzzle. And the thing about that is that you always need some music just to gather your thoughts. You always need some music just to gather your thoughts. So when I think about that, I think about Glasgow, and I think about sometimes, I've seen a trend in Scotland, especially when I was going back, especially when I went back this year, that pubs you've now actually started getting cafes that are themed. For example, you might have a board games cafe, and people that's another way for people to put their feet up, to have a game of chess, to have a game of drafts. And some of the music, what would be some of the music that people might listen to if they were in Glasgow? Well, I'm just going to play you a couple of tunes around that. Wrong tune. So the first tune was called I Belong to Glasgow, and you've got people, my imagination of that is people sitting in a pub in Glasgow or a cafe, having a coffee, and they've got their feet up. It might be raining outside, it might be raining in George Square or near Queen Street Station, and they're reminiscing about memories, and they're turning moments into memories just by relaxing and listening to some good music, having some great company. So maybe you've got a cup of coffee or a cup of tea tonight, or maybe something different. But wherever you are in the world, I hope you're relaxing, putting your feet up and enjoying yourselves. Now, you might be thinking, I love this music. I really, really love this music. Well, I'm glad you do, because there's 2 CDs. One is called Roaming Free, and that's myself and a gentleman friend from Scotland, Rory Sinclair, and that's available as a signed copy, and we can send that out to you. Or the newer one is Cousins from Afar, which is Steve Wade, myself and Steve Wade from Johnny Farnham and the Little River Band. Steve used to play over in the US and is now based in Melbourne, Australia. So we recorded the CD there. And that is also available for a signed copy, and we can send that out to you. So you can just put your feet up and listen to some music in your own home, and just think about the memories that you've got just now. So I haven't really talked that much about Ireland, and I should really honour Ireland. So Ireland, what they said, I've spent some time in Melbourne, Australia, and what they said, what people say about Australia is that the Scots got the land and the Irish got the pubs. So I wonder which nationality thought about putting its feet up first. I actually think both, and I think that maybe the Scots had some celebration in their own homes and the Irish had the celebration in the pubs. So anyway, I heard a story about people who went over to Ireland, and they'd done a lot of travelling, like a really, really lot of travelling. And Ireland is very, very, like Scotland, is known for its hospitality and warmth of welcome. And there was a story about some travellers who went to a bed and breakfast in Ireland, and the host, so the travellers were very weary, and they were putting their feet up with the host in the dining room, and the fire was on, and there was a warm welcome there. And the host says to the travellers, "Would you like a cup of tea?" And the traveller said, "No, thank you." And then about 20 minutes later, the host said again, "Would you like a cup of tea?" And the traveller said, "No, thank you." And then the host said again, about 20 minutes later, "Would you like a cup of tea?" And the traveller said, "No, thank you." And do you know what the host said? "Well, I'm not going to ask you again." So there's a warmth to the hospitality, and I would really like to celebrate the warmth of the Irish hospitality with a couple of tunes. And those two tunes, the first one was Molly Malone, which is a beautiful song that a lot of people sing at music sessions around the world, Celtic music sessions. Now, imagine, and I forget, the last tune was called The Lark in the Morning. So imagine you're waking up, you've just booked an Airbnb for the weekend somewhere really relaxing, like Mount Dora, for example, or maybe New Smyrna Beach. These are two places in Central Florida, by the way. And you just open the windows and you hear the birds chirping away, and the lark just happens to be one of the birds chirping. It sort of just let you lie in, until like 9:30, and then it started chirping. And when I think about these tunes bring back really wonderful memories of taking part in a Celtic music session anywhere in the world and having fun. And that reminds me that I'm actually going to be officially taking applications for my Celtic Fiddle Guru Academy. This is my online Celtic Fiddle Guru Academy. So the applications are actually going to be open for about 2 weeks. And I'll be doing the interviewing for new students for this year's wave of students. And we'll be starting on the 1st July, starting classes on the 1st July. And so when I think about that and sort of like putting your feet up, I think I better watch where I put my feet, because I've got to do some exercise. And this was one of the things that actually came out on Saturday night. We played for 4 hours. The Brazen Heads, myself and Jim, we played for 4 hours. And honestly, I remember now why I used to go and do exercise like cycling and swimming. And with the travelling backwards and forwards to the US and Europe, I'd actually sort of forgotten about that as part of my routine. So I've now got some exercise coaches, and if you have a look on my Facebook page, then you can have a look and see the new members of the team. And they're the Light and Soul of Fitness Coaching. I think it's Chuck and Katie. So hello to Chuck and Katie, and thanks for putting me back in the straight and narrow. So you might have been to the gym. You're coming back and you're putting your feet up. And what sort of music might you listen to that really, just keeps that energy flowing? Well, here's a couple of tunes that might just help. the first tune, I actually remember seeing two of the fathers of Scottish fiddle playing, and I saw them in Kirriemuir, where J.M. Barrie, who wrote Peter Pan, was born, and Kirriemuir is actually near near Dundee, in the Tayside region of Scotland, probably about an hour and 10, an hour and a quarter from Edinburgh. And you're heading up the way from Edinburgh up towards Aberdeen. And so the two gentlemen were Ron Ganella and Angus Cameron. And it was just such an awesome evening to see these two fiddle players just playing together. And that was when I was putting my feet up just before studying for some exams at school. And that particular tune, the first tune, is always stuck in my head. And you're going to ask me, what is the name of it? I'm sorry, I'm going to have to pass on that one. And the second tune was, I was over in the Sumatran jungle last August, and doing a recce for a tour I'm going to take there in August 2019. So if you want to be part of that, you're more than welcome to private message me on Facebook, and we can speak about that. And the tune, I got the chance to jam with Jason, one of the guides, one of the tour guides, and it was just such an awesome experience because Jason was playing the bongo drums, and I was trying to sort of find something to connect with the rhythm that he was doing, and we were doing it by the river. You had the jungle on one side, and you actually had the river on the other side, and it was just such an awesome moment there that we actually caught it on video. So if you look on YouTube, on the Celtic Fiddle Guru YouTube channel, then you'll find that video there, and it's one of these jamming me videos. You know, you just do stuff in the moment. My way to put my feet up is to actually play music, and it's my way to relax. And the tune that I was playing for that last one was called "The Kilt Is My Delight." Now, in Scotland, people really wear kilts for, I think, mostly ceremonial occasions. Like somebody might be getting married, or it might be it might be a ceilidh, or it might be a Highland Games, for example. And one of the most frequent questions that I have actually been asked that I'm over in Florida is, do I play the bagpipes? And the answer is no. And what I would say is, my violin, when I play the tunes and I decorate the way that I play my decorations have been very, very strongly influenced by the bagpipe playing. So if you listen closely to the CD Roaming Free or Cousins from Afar, then you'll hear, and then if you just happen to sort of like hear the bagpipes being played, then you might hear a similarity, or like a distant relationship between the way I play and the way that a piper would play the bagpipes. Now, you actually do have different sorts of bagpipes. You've got the really tall ones, and they are tuned, I think, to B flat major, and then this is A. So it's just to play. What some fiddle players do is they actually retune their strings so they can play with the bagpipes, play with the big bagpipes. But you actually have sets of bagpipes that are more in tune, tuned like the violin. And these are the Northumbrian bagpipes, for example, the Lowland bagpipes. And you might have a look on YouTube, and when you see the violin or the fiddles being played and the bagpipes playing together, like these not the Highland bagpipes, but the other styles of bagpipes, even the Irish pipes as well, your feet will start tapping, and you'll just want to put your feet up immediately and just sit and just relax and just listen to the music. So what would a tune be that might sound like I was playing the bagpipes? Well, this is a tune called The Devil in the Kitchen, and it was written by Scott Skinner. Scott Skinner was the father of Scottish fiddle playing, and he was around late 1800s, mid to late 1800s, and then he's also around up until probably about 1927. And Scott Skinner used to dress in the Scottish dress fully. Like he would wear the kilt, he would have a plaid as well. And one of the things that I remember about Scott Skinner is that Henry Ford of the Ford Motor Company sponsored Mr. Skinner to do a tour of the US. And Scott Skinner, excuse me, I'm not getting emotional about it. And Scott Skinner actually did this when he was in his 70s. Can you believe that? A gentleman in the 70s doing the tours of the US, and I should probably have a look and see what the path, the venues that Scott Skinner actually played at. So anyway, Mr. Skinner composed this tune called The Devil in the Kitchen, and this is a pipe strathspey. Now, that tune is also one of the tunes that's played for the sword dancing, the Highland dancing, when they actually do the sword dancing. And I've arrived in Florida this year and sort of just missed the wave of the Highland Games and the Celtic festivals. I'll be there. I'm there for next year, 2019. So if you're thinking about, if you're listening to the house concerts and hosted by Constant from Constant Productions, if you're thinking about that you'd like to hear more music, then you can buy the CDs, Roaming Free, Cousins from Afar, and they're available for digital download, or especially tonight they'll be signed and they'll be sent directly to you. And you might also want to come along to some of the Highland Games or the Celtic festivals next year. Try something different. March 17th is really big in the US, St. Patrick's Day. 30th November is St. Andrew's Day, patron saint of Scotland, and there are also sort of celebrations around that as well. And the celebrations are really an excuse for people to put their feet up and just relax. Now, talking about putting your feet up and relaxing, wouldn't it be awesome to have a concert in your own home with your friends and listening to music like this? Well, I do house concerts. And private message me on Facebook, and we can talk about and we can arrange something. So, you might be in Ohio, or you might be in Louisiana, might be in Maine, or Florida, we'll work something out. So let's get back to Ireland. Let's get back to the warm welcome nature of Ireland. So when I think about relaxing, putting your feet up, I always think about a cup of tea. With Ireland, I think about cups of tea, and there's actually an Irish reel. A reel is a faster pace of tune, and this Irish reel is called the cup of tea. Now, would you like to hear a joke? Yes. Okay. This gentleman was in Australia and he phoned a call centre in Glasgow. And so just imagine the conversation's probably been going on for about 10 minutes. And this gentleman is putting his feet up and he's wanting to take a holiday to Scotland to have a look around the beauty of the glens, the west coast of Scotland, Fort William, Reciple, the Ardnamurchan Peninsula. And he says to the call centre operator, "Can you tell me where Woven is, please? This, I really want to go and visit this place called Woven." So the call centre operator is having a look in the computer, and you know what? The call centre operator can't find Woven anywhere in Scotland. And so the call centre operator says, "Sir, so why do you want to go to Woven?" And do you know what the gentleman from Australia says? "Well, this is what it says in the back of my jersey, Woven in Scotland." So this is the sort of dry sense of humour that you'd experience when you have a house concert hosted by me in your own home. I think it's actually quite funny. But you'd certainly have a good time, and it would be a way of bringing all your friends together to celebrate a really, really nice occasion. Now, if it's anyone's birthday today, happy birthday to you, and here's happy birthday. happy birthday. Now, can I ask you a question? What is the favourite way for you to put your feet up? For example, if you play Celtic Fiddle, or you want to learn Celtic Fiddle, and join in a Celtic music session anywhere in the world and have fun, then I can help you with that. And I'm shortly going to be launching my online Celtic Fiddle Guru Academy. We are going to have fun, by the way, so watch out for that. Do you like to travel? Do you like to do activities like maybe windsurfing? I had my first windsurfing experience, if you can believe it, this is seriously true, was to actually learn windsurfing on a kettle loch in the Scottish Highlands. Now, the kettle loch is named the kettle loch because of the shape of it. Scotland's got a strong geology in its landscape, and the kettle loch is sort of quite a deep loch, and this particular loch is called Loch Morlich. And I always remember just sort of like standing up on the board and the instructor telling us to maintain our balance, and the instructor said, just walk to the front of the board and take your time. Well, I did that, and I walked to the front of the board, and the next thing I knew, I'd taken another step and I was in the water. And my goodness, was the water very cold. It was very inspiringly cold. And that was one of my first memories of windsurfing. I've done a few bits of windsurfing since then. And I'm actually looking at doing that back over here as well as surfing. And when I think about touring, when I think about traveling, people putting their feet up and going on holiday, maybe it's somebody who wants to go to play golf in St Andrews, or go and visit some of the West Coast restaurants like Recipe or Fort William and Crewe Haven, Oban, and where they actually get to sample some of the local fare. And the bus trips that people take, they go past very iconic places in Scotland, and one of these places is called Loch Lomond. So here's a tune about Loch Lomond. And imagine if you're traveling on that bus, you're on a tour, and you're listening to this music, and this music actually might relax you to put you to sleep. That's okay, because you're relaxed and you're having fun. Another, when I think about Loch Lomond, another song that I think about the touring around the Highlands is Ye Banks and Braes. Now, a brae is like a it's a hill with a bit of an incline. So when you're walking up the brae, this is B-R-A-E, you're actually walking up the slight incline of a hill. And when I think about doing that, I think about hill walking. I think perhaps about hill walking in the Western Isles. And one of the ways that people put their feet up in Scotland is to go to the outdoors, especially the West Coast, because in all weathers it can be sensationally beautiful. I was across at the Recipe Fiddle Fest in September last year and tutoring there, and Recipe's at the top of the Ardnamurchan Peninsula. It's about an hour away from Fort William, and sincerely I saw about between 10 and 14 changes in the weather and just in one afternoon, and each change was really, really beautiful. So when I think about walking, when I think about hill walking in the Western Isles, I think about the US Tramping Song. Now, we are actually coming to the end of this evening's house concert. My name's Colin MacLeod. I'm the Celtic Fiddle Guru, and tonight's production has been hosted by Constant from Constant Productions. Thank you, Constant, for that. Much appreciated. Now we have a couple of CDs for sale, Roaming Free and Cousins from Afar. We can send these out to you and they'll be signed. Or perhaps you've really, really enjoyed this evening and you'd like to host a house concert where you invite your own friends around to your house, and I could come and play and I'll be the host for the evening, and we can have a more intimate experience, and you can have all your friends there, and it'll be a great evening with music and stories and connection and community as well. And we are actually going to be back online next Thursday as well. So that's the 21st of June, same time, 8 p.m, broadcast live from Orlando. And if you've got any comments, please go forth and write them down, or private message me on Facebook. And my email address is ColinMacLeod 770@gmail.com. And I'll round off tonight with a tune called Kate Dalrymple, and I look forward to catching up with you soon. Good night.